Man, I've had the privilege of getting to work with Steve Coleman at different gigs for 25 years now, but when I came to Choctaw Road 3 years ago, I really got to know Steve and count Steve as a great friend. He's always been someone I admired, but I just came to love and respect him all the more when I heard his story of how he was 5 years sober. And I loved how he wanted to work with people and share that with them and help people get sober and dealing with addictions. That's been a big part of what we've been able to offer people here at Choctaw Road. And getting to just 5 services a week for 3 years, be with Steve and work with him closely, and even writing some songs. This song we're going to do called More, I love what it said, that he's more than we could ever imagine. We wanted more time with Steve, but the thing is that Steve is getting that more right now because he's with Jesus, and it gives us a hope. And I love how Steve wanted to share the hope he found with everybody he knew, and I hope it encourages us to do the same.
You know, I was so glad that you asked me to work on the song with you. And the pastor brought the idea to us. And, you know, sometimes we're faced with different situations and we don't know sometimes where to look for the answers. But no matter what's going on, God's always got it under control.
Yeah. So
the title of this song is More. More than any problem you could ever have, more than any need you could ever have. God is more than that. He's always the answer.
Yeah. Right on.
I've been afraid what they think of me can't measure up of what I think I should be. Oh, so afraid of not having enough. What will I do when times get tough? You are more. You are more. You are more. You're the one that I adore. You are more. You are more. You are everything I need and more.
Yeah, so I mean, I only knew Steve for a short time. So you know, the first day I ever met Steve was the day that I played, and the first thing he said to me was, "You sound good," which was, he didn't need to say that, but he said it, and make sure I hear you in your playing and not just whatever the track was doing or whatever. So I thought that was a really nice way to introduce me to a team and like kind of make me feel comfortable with one, you know, thing. And he just never had a negative word to say about anything. He was uplifting, and everybody I've ever talked to loved him. So
getting to play with Steve for the time that I had with him taught me so much as a musician and so much as just being a person. Steve was always out there rooting for you to do the best. He was always an encourager, and he always encouraged me to do better, taught me so much stuff musically and spiritually, and I just couldn't be more thankful and be more honored to be able to share the stage with someone as great as he was.
Steve was obviously so friendly, so outgoing, and he was really, really complimentary to the rest of us about, you know, the work that we were doing musically, and that meant a lot coming from a guy that has traveled the world and done what Steve did musically. But some of my favorite times have actually just been the breaks we have between services. Sitting next to Steve and listening to him talk about his life, his story, where God's taken him, where music took him. And I think the most meaningful thing I can say about Steve is actually what somebody told me, someone who knows him from an alcoholic recovery program. And this person, who's never been here, told me how Christ-like Steve was and how passionately Steve always talked about the work that he got to do here at Choctaw Road. And to me, hearing that from someone that knows him from outside the walls of the church means more than anything.
Steve Coleman. For the past 20 years, I would show up at a gig, and there was Steve. And I knew not only was this going to be a good gig, but we were fixing to groove. 6.5 years ago, I was privileged to come here to Choctaw Road. And sure enough, 6 weeks later, there was Steve. This time we delved into songwriting. We became the best friends. And I will miss him. But like King David said, he cannot come to me. But one day, I will go to him. And we will groove.
See, I wore a smile, but I was dead inside, running away, but nowhere to hide. You look beyond all my sin and my shame. Love never stops. You see, it calls my name. You are more. You are more. You are more. You're the one that I adore. You are more. You are more. You are everything I need and more. What you're giving me and where you're taking me is more. What you're giving me and where you're taking me is more. So much more. What you are giving me, you are more. You are more. You are
Steve was my friend, first and foremost. And the first time I remember watching him play or sing, I was super impressed with his ability. He made music look effortless. And while I know that he'd spent a lifetime working to get there, he still was a natural. He made it look effortless. And as we got to know each other better, singing and playing together, I was just consistently more impressed with not just his musicality, but his heart and his attitude and his desire to be such a team player. Matt and I talked about a little bit ago that a lot of times in between sets we would sit and Steve would kind of lean in with his eyes real big and he'd start to whisper like he was going to tell you a really important secret. And I'd lean in and wait. And then a lot of times it was just about fishing or about how this particular song was really written by this person, but nobody really knows. And then we would walk back for rehearsals or for church, and he would often tell me, he would say, "You're such a pleasure to work with," and I would grin and tell him, "Well, you just don't follow me around all the time." But honestly, more than anything, even though he was incredibly talented and witty and full of an incredible spirit, I'm so thankful that we got these last few years to see and watch what God did in his life. How he redeemed things that were lost, how he restored relationships for Steve, and how he grew a heart in Steve to give back to other people who had walked through what he had walked through. We got a lot of the very best parts of Steve Coleman, and I'm so thankful. But I'm going to miss him. And I know that he is listening, and if he is, I know he can hear me say, I'm a little bit behind you, but I'm heading home too, and when we get there, we're going to make more music together. Miss you.
You're the one that I adore.